Round the fire, warm and bright, stocked up food for the night. Got our plans set in gold for the days when it's cold. Tools and gear stacked up high in the cabin we reside, listening to the winds howl, prepping for the morning's prowl. At the purpose fireside we stay, ready for that fateful day. Stories shared and hearts alight, round the fire every night.
Hello and welcome to a not live version of Prepper Fireside. Reason being, everyone's decided for a weekend off and I'm currently in the middle of a field packing a tent up. Believe it or not. I've got the Prepper weekend this weekend, the Prepper meets, which I've been plugging. How are you doing, Brian, on this lovely Sunday evening?
all good, mate. I wish I could have made that meet, but next one. I'll definitely get the next one.
Yeah, well, by the sounds of things, it's going to be more than just once a year, hopefully, in different locations to accommodate more people. So that should be cool. Speaking of prepper meets, I've packed a lot of my stuff away, so I'm a bit light on props today. So bear with me during this. But this episode is all about first aid. First aid for me, everyone should have, prepper or no prepper. Yeah, you've got a tub under the sink, you've got plasters, you've got stuff like that. The more the merrier. But yeah, everyone should have first aid. But with preppers, it should go beyond that because we're looking at situations where there'd be no doctors, no nurses, no hospitals and no ambulances, potentially. So with that in mind, Brian, are you? Do you think yourself? Are you just first aid on hand, or have you started thinking about longer term eventualities when it comes to medicines and stuff?
Yeah, both, mate. To be honest, I've got uncontrolled high blood pressure at the moment, so I've got stacks of tablets, and my wife's on medication. Arguably, should be on medication, but that's another issue. We'll not get into that one. I think long term, you don't know what's round the corner. It could be something as simple as a snowstorm. It could be something longer term and more sinister, but the reality is the same. So where it's a simple snowstorm for 2 weeks, you can't get any deliveries, or you've got a grid down, you should have anything that's essential for your continued life. So blood pressure, whatever it is, you need to have a spare stock.
Yeah, I think I'm lucky in that way where I don't have to have any sort of prescription. Do you have an extra plan for that? I'm always curious with people with this because you can only stockpile so much. I mean, if you've got 10 years worth, you've got 10 years worth. But either way, there's an end to that at some point. Is there a backup plan? Is there natural remedies, things like that you can look at?
There is natural remedies. I'll be honest, I've never tried.
Don't say divorce.
There is natural remedies for blood pressure, and if it ever comes to the crunch, I run out, I'll have a stab at it. But until then, I wouldn't particularly want to gamble with my heart function.
Yeah. But it is something you've looked at, as in this would be the contingency.
Yeah. Same for antibiotics and things as well.
Yeah. And what's that based around? Is that based like around herbs and stuff like that, or just diet?
Both. I mean, for myself, I'm trying to shed a few pounds at the moment. That'll have an effect on my blood pressure for a start. So there's things that you can do to affect your long-term preps and health that doesn't involve tablets. So something as simple as getting out and being a bit more active could drop your blood pressure a few points, or adding in some turmeric or other herbs and spices. There's different things you could do and try.
What about over-the-counter medications? What kind of things should people be looking at for that? Obviously, paracetamol and ibuprofen's a given, and because we're limited in this country, Kelly from Monkey Wrench channel couldn't believe when I told him that we can only buy 2 little packs of ibuprofen or paracetamol per trip. Because they get Tylenol in a 1,000-tablet tub. He went, "I'll post you some." I went, "Don't think customs will like that."
I was fortunate and I was able to buy a bulk load of amoxicillin
Hmm.
a couple of years ago when COVID hit, and this came in through, basically, I think it came through Turkey. Prior to that, you used to be able to get the fish antibiotics and things like that. That's all been stopped now as well. Canine, cats, anything for pets, these sort of things, they used to be able to use as an alternative sort of antibiotics. They're all gone. You can't get them without a prescription now either. So
Wow.
it's becoming more and more difficult.
It's more controlled than the drugs that should be controlled by the sounds of it.
It is, and it's difficult if you're trying to. I mean, you can still get a private prescription for antibiotics. I have done that if you want to pay 40 quid for it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get, I believe Everyday Prepper said if you're going on a round the world sailing trip and you're going to be nowhere near land for a length of time, you can get a pack that contains stuff like this. And I've seen these for sale now. I found a couple of sites that do them, but they're very overpriced for what you get. And it's pretty much giving you enough to get to land. So it's always one thing that's worried me. Go on.
It is, and I think I understand the rationale behind it. The government's worried and the medical professionals are worried about self-medication and different things. Totally get that. I'm on board with it. We should never be self-medicating if you can avoid it. That's why I've got an NHS. However, what we are talking about tonight is if that's not available. So if that's not available, then you need to help yourself. So that's what we're talking about, long-term helping yourself if you've no alternative medical arrangements.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for us as preppers.
Yeah, definitely. It does worry me. The antibiotics thing worries me more than anything, because the more literature I read, fictional literature, mind, but the more I read where somebody's had an injury and there's no antibiotics, that can kill you. And you just take it for granted in peace times that, an infection, no problem. Oh, I've got a cyst, I've got an abscess. Oh, I'll take some antibiotics. But if you didn't, that's agony for a long time. So it does really worry me, stuff like that we can't get them.
Plus, the thing is, say you were fortunate enough to stockpile a large amount of these things, the effectiveness wears off, and that's assuming you're storing them properly as well. So, do you have an ability to rotate the stock? I'll need to try and remember the book. I've actually got a book that, if I'd been prepared at all, I would have brought it, on natural antibiotics, because there is natural ones out there, and I meant to bring the book. I don't even think I've got it up here with me, but I'll send you a link to it. There is a whole host of natural antibiotics that you can use. Disclaimer: I've never tried it. I would only ever do that again if I ran out of the traditional methods and I was really, really stuck.
Right. I'm trying to figure out. I was trying to look. It says they could be stored for amoxicillin can be stored for 2 to 3 years if stored properly. But am I right in thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, that after that point, it's not a case of in 3 years' time they go, I'm an antibiotic, now I'm just an empty capsule. It slowly degrades, right?
Yeah.
So you might have to take extra and stuff like that, or it might be a longer course. So it will last longer than that. But again, something that's a finite supply. So the alternatives is a good option if you can find them.
I mean, in an ideal world as well, if it's a scenario where healthcare is limited, that's where first aid and triage and everything else come into play first. If you've got a cut, then you need to know how to clean that out properly, how to dress the wound, prevent the infection in the first place rather than have to treat it.
Yeah, avoid it, definitely. One thing I looked at, but I was going to put some pictures up, but I'm not going to. I did look at like more Victorian and medieval treatments for infections and sweating things out, bleeding people and stuff like that. And there's a minor foundation to some of it. Like some of it can make sense, but yeah, it was just obviously probably not the best idea.
Well, a bit of useless information that I would never want to try myself, but the age-old practice of putting maggots on infected flesh and eating out the decay and the corruption, that was done and did actually work. Although it's abhorrent to us just now, and we would never choose to do that, they would feed on infected flesh in times of crisis. God forbid we ever have to go down that route.
So a box of maggots will always come in handy.
Yeah.
How long do maggots last? Longer than antibiotics.
It's all protein if you get hungry as well.
Well, there you go. You've cleaned your wound and had a snack. It's brilliant. That's better than it's probably better than the hospital food at the moment. So there's nothing to complain about.
It's probably worth doing a little disclaimer as well, Mike, saying none of this represents, we're not trained medical professionals and doesn't constitute a recommendation other than seeking an alternative medical provision.
Go to the doctors, ring 111, call an ambulance. In peace times, use the facilities that are there. This is just theoretical. I don't want anyone bleeding themselves or putting maggots on the wounds or anything like that on my advice. Don't do anything on my advice. Ever.
Mike said use leeches.
I just remember the Carlsberg advert. You got any leeches for this? That was a brilliant. Good times. Right. So the antibiotics is my biggest worry. That's why I brought that up first. It is one thing that I'm still trying to assess how I'm going to deal with that, because I've got kids as well. Kids are, It's all right cleaning your wound and keeping it clean, but trying that with kids in that kind of situation is going to be even more difficult to manage. So, hygiene is very important. Part of your medical stuff should always be cleaning things. Alcohol wipes, alcohol solution, a sanitizer should always be part of it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Now, cuts and scrapes, we can skirt over. Burns, I think, to a degree, no pun intended, we can skirt over because it is what it is. It's exactly what it says on the tin. Clean it, use a plaster, off you go.
Copious amounts of fresh water.
Right. What about everyone who thinks they're Rambo and gets a major wound and thinks they're going to stitch themselves up while biting a stick or empty a shotgun cartridge out on their arm and light the black powder? Any foundations to that? And what do you think about that? So what, in that kind of situation, if you had a wound of that scale, what's your trauma response to that? What are you going to do for that?
If you've got a major bleed, so if it's pulsing, it's potentially an arterial bleed, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got minutes. So that's when you want to break out your tourniquet. And you want to be practicing with the tourniquet. And also, there's not much point you knowing how to use it if your family doesn't know how to use it, because you might not be in any fit state to apply it. So buy a few, get one as a practice one, try it on the family, make sure they know just how tight this thing's got to actually be to stop the blood flow. Explain to them that there'll be a lot of blood. Explain to them that they've got to talk to people, well, keep them calm, and they've got to remain calm, right? But you've got minutes, and they need to know where to put it. Even if it's on your leg, if it's a bleed for the femoral artery or something as simple as pushing the blade of your foot right in against the inside of the leg and trying to stop it that way, applying pressure. Don't be tempted to keep looking at it. The things they need to know in practice before it goes wrong.
What about cauterization then? A lot of older movies, you'll see them pull an iron out of the fire and seal a wound with it. What about cauterization as a technique?
I think we're better than that now. You've got things like Easy Clot as well. You've got super glue. I've ordered them, but they've not arrived in time. You've got the modern version of steri strips where you can apply them to the wound, and then it's like cable ties, you ratchet them together.
Got some at the bottom of the car boot.
That's a good thing as well. But first and foremost, before we do anything else, stop the bleed locally. Apply pressure. Once you've got the bleeding under control, then you're going to look at all the fun stuff like wound closure. Whether it's they've got a trauma bandage and they're putting it in, feeding it in, bandaging it up with your age-old Israeli bandage. But they need to practice this. You need to practice it. If you want yes.
It's all about keeping calm as well, like you said, because a lot of people will rush to close that wound and rush to wrap up that wound before they've cleaned it. And once it's started to heal and once it's started to scab, it'll already be infected. It's too late to try and clean it there. You can, but it's not going to be as effective. So I remember a knee injury to my brother when he was at school. A teacher stood on his knee with a pair of rugby studs on, and it went right in. And he was in the hospital holding his wound open while they poured the alcohol in, like the alcohol solution in, to clean it out. That's how detailed you've got to be when it comes to avoiding the infection.
And here's something to bear in mind. Age catches up with all of us. When I was younger, when I was still a hands-on engineer, I could get a cut. My hands would be black with dirt, oil, everything else in between. And I could have cuts. And I'd just grab a roll of insulating tape, tape it up. I never, ever got an infection. Bruises will heal very quickly, right? Whereas now I'm 50 years old. If I bruise my shin, it's like that for a fortnight. The ability to fight an infection, if I get a cut now or an ingrown toenail, instantly it'll become poisoned. So you've got to be aware that age is a factor. Youth has got an ability to fight an infection that as you're getting on in years, you don't have that.
Yeah, definitely worth thinking about that, because some people might not have cut themselves for the last 20 years and think, oh, I'm not prone to infections because I used to do it all the time, and not take that into account. It's a very good point. So, right. Let's have a look. I'm going to do mine first because yours are bigger than mine at the moment.
She's been talking about me again.
Right. So I've got a big Medikit. Everyone's seen it who knows the channel because I've done a full review on it. It was bought for me off a subscriber as a gift on Amazon. Really appreciate that. It was amazing. That was Teller Boy, he's called. He's always in, and he's one of the original ones. But he got me that, and I'll link the video in here. But that's my main Medikit, but it's packed away ready for tomorrow when I go to the meet. So what I have got is this little one here, which is purely for the wife's car. And it is literally a St. John's ambulance one. So anyone knows anything about St. John's ambulance, they're a volunteer ambulance force. Usually their qualifications are put a plaster on. Anything other than that, then they're lost. So you can imagine in this kit, it is very basic wound closure and trauma stuff. So multiple bandages, sterile pads, iPads, triangle bandage. That's a classic St. John's ambulance. You always used to see somebody at the fair getting wrapped up in a triangle bandage by St. John's ambulance. And yeah, just enough plasters to last a lifetime. The reason that's for her car is probably at this stage, she's not got the same medical training as I have. So I don't want to start giving her scissors and stuff she can do damage with, really, trying to amputate her own finger. That's a very basic one. I would class as a travel kit. This is not big enough for what you need at home. The next one up is similar. It looks quite small and compact, but it folds out and instantly the scissors attack you. But it's got a lot more in there. If you can see some of the details, it's going to be difficult to see because it's got a shine on, but it's got a lot more in there. It's got like eye washes. It's got the little scissors, not for surgery, but for cutting bandages and stuff.
Trauma shears.
Yeah. Little bottles of one-time use saline solution. So it squeezes off. And if anyone remembers twist and squeeze fruit shoot type things.
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, it's like one of them, and it's the same sort of lid. So once it's open, it's used. So once you open it to clean a wound, grip it, squeeze it, blast it in there, and use the whole thing because it'll be useless after that. Other than that, lots of other trauma stuff. And yeah, these are all very disappointing compared to my bigger kit. One thing I will say is make sure you vary the size of your dressings. Some of these ones that you buy off the shelf have a tiny little squares in. And if you've got anything bigger than that, especially an abrasion over it. Yeah, exactly. And look at the bandages you're using as well, because you have regular bandages for just dressing a wound, but you have compression ones as well for ankles, knees, things like that. You have gripping tubes type bandages. So there is a multitude of different ones you can get. That's all I'm going to show you because they're very basic kits. But Brian's going to take the lead now and show us all his wonderful medical gear that he can perform full surgeries with and everything. Go on. Let's have a look at what you've got. And when you're showing us, let us know where these are for. Like I've said, that was her car. And that other one was my car. So there are car kits. So where are yours used?
So this one is mine. This is what I carry, whether it's in the car or on my backpack. This is my everyday carry medical kit, like. And let's see if you can see, as I open this. This is where the shit falls in. So you've got an array of plasters and things, safety pins, etc. Now the safety pins, as horrible as it sounds, they're pretty much dual use even. If you had to use them to temporarily hold some flaps of skin together, whatever, you could do it. It'll hurt like shit, but you could do it.
So many jokes that I did not say.
There's your trauma bandages we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There's your tubey grip type ones. So I keep lots of these in here. Triangular bandage, unless you were using it to immobilise, it's pretty useless. Tubey grip, sorry, not tubey grip, micropore. You can't have enough of that. Even if it's for holding bandages together, great stuff.
I'll just stop you for a second there because I mentioned this in another video. When you buy a medical kit, it's got one of them in. One.
It's not enough.
You'll run out of that before you run out of bandages and dressings and things like that. And even when you have run out of bandages and dressings, it's easy enough to bleach and cut up a sheet rather than make microporous tape and stuff. So stock up on that. You can buy boxes on Amazon in bulk. Stock up on that one. Sorry, carry on.
All good, mate. So, gauze bandage. All right. Cotton buds. Emergency blanket. As thin as it is, for heat retention qualities and properties, if somebody's going into shock, fantastic.
Yeah, I've got two of them, but they're not in the medikit because the bags are so small. They're in the car kit with the high vis and stuff like that.
Trauma shears. You don't want to be tugging at somebody's clothing when they're already in a lot of pain if you're trying to expose where the injury is. So these will cut through most things, including denim, pretty sharpish. Don't do anything silly with them.
Test them, get quality. Don't buy the Temu ones. They don't cut through anything.
Yep. Now, this is the cloned Israeli bandage with the little elastic keeper plate and that in it.
Yeah.
I've opened these up. For the price point, they're brilliant. You know, they're fantastic. Really, really good.
So for people that haven't opened them up, like what kind of coverage will that do?
Do you know
You don't
what?
have to open one. You don't have to open one.
Mate, I have stock. Do you know what? Let's just open one. And then you can see what we're talking about. So, just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
All right. And then when you're wrapping it around the limb or appendage or whatever, this clip folds back round and clips in here. And there's plastic keeper. Obviously, this is a pressure dressing that goes onto the wound site. And
quite
these
thick,
are,
that as well, isn't it?
yes, I'd probably say it's about 12 millimeters thick, possibly even 3/4 in the middle. And you get plenty on it. And there's the other part of it. So, yeah, you can buy these in bulk for what they are. For the proper Israeli bandage, these are a rip-off clone. But for what you want it for, can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I've got a few. Tourniquet. So Comes with tightener and also a little bit here that will say time. For people that don't know, make sure you write the time on it when you apply the tourniquet, because when the medics turn up, they're going to want to know, because they're going to have to start worrying about things like blood flow and possibly amputation if you leave it on too long. So make sure you write that on it. If you can't write it on there, write it in the forehead. Marker, pen, whatever you've got.
If you've not done any sort of medical training, do your research on these. Things can go bad using them wrong. So that's what I'd recommend. I've done several first aid courses with the football team, things like that. Got a medical certificate through that. That covered that level. You know, I'm never going to be a doctor, but it covered that kind of trauma level.
See, on that front, you made a good point there. St John's Ambulance, even through your employer, volunteer to be a first aider, get the training. See if they'll do any continuation training for advanced first aid courses and things. Make the most of it. Then make sure that your family knows. Even do a family course, because it might be how much point you know how to do CPR if you're the one lying on the ground, right? So it's worth mentioning that the courses are not expensive. Your employer could pick up the tab in a lot of cases, and they'd be glad to have the volunteer.
So on the same sort of front, any sort of grassroots sports club are always looking for volunteers. Go down to them. They also get grants to train people in the medical side of things. So you can do your bit for grassroots sports at the same time as getting a few prepper skills.
I think people would be surprised just how tired you get, even with the dummy, and just how deep you have to go when you're doing chest compressions.
Yeah.
Very tired, very quickly.
Yeah. Have you seen the machines they've got now?
Yeah, they strap it around them and it's...
Yeah, I hadn't seen that till I watched something on TV. I was like, what the hell is that?
It looks brutal. It's like somebody's ordered something off Ann Summers and it's dual use. It's really bad. It's horrific.
I'm never going to look at a female ambulance lady the same.
And that's when they get defrogged again.
Carry on.
So that's the one that I always carry. There's a few things still to go in it that I should have in it. So super glue. You're limited in the space. I've got a smaller one in the car as well, which is essentially this one. It's a little travel one. So
while you open that, on the super glue front, I don't know if you found the same. I don't know if you found the same thing, but so I spent a decent amount of money on some Loctite the other day for a job I was doing, and it's like a gel. I've found the super glue that you need for wound closures and quick things like that. You get the cheap ones. Yeah. Honestly, you can get. You used to be able to. Don't know if you still can. In the pound shop, you used to be able to get like 10 in a row. Little cardboard tear off, and it's got a little tube in. They are perfect. You might only get one use at a time, but they're perfect.
Yep.
So
this is a generic one like the one you just showed earlier. So it's pretty much for most of these small ones will get the same things in them. A little bit of micropore. You know what? Since we've got time, let's just open it. Bandage. Triangle bandage. Foil. What the hell? And a really, really, really long elastoplast. I've no idea what they're doing with that. A slinky dog or a snake? Jesus. And the smallest roll of micropore that you'd be lucky to put around one single arm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this one's got burnies in it somewhere. Because I think I put it in it. Lots of little small crappy bandages that I've got their place, but they're not anything like as long as that. And any copious amount of blood or fluid is going to piss through them pretty quickly. For any major wound, this is worthless. They
are also good. If you have a major wound and you've used something like the big trauma bandages, stuff like that, the weeks after that, keeping that dressing clean is key to infection. So things like these cheaper bandages are great for changing the dressing as it starts to heal and putting something clean on. So when they're dirt cheap and you can get them in bulk, I mean, I got 30 bandages the other day. at a sale. I saw it and they were on the shelf and they were like 10p, reduced down from like £1 to 10p. So I literally cleared the shelf. You can never have enough of them.
See these ones? I cut one open there.
Yeah.
I bought these in bulk, and I've literally got a box full of them. And boxes of the normal kind of generic crepe cotton bandages, hundreds of them, and lots of the other ones as well, because they're cheap and they've got value.
Yeah.
But I tend to keep lots of them.
So where are they in your house?
These are up here with all the prepper stuff.
All right. So what's the
and there's two in the kitchen.
What's the idea of the individual kits then? Or is it just stockpile wise?
These are essentially stockpiled, mate, to be honest. I see a bargain and I pick them up and I stick them in there. But for my bug out bags and things for family and extended family, I can give one of these away. They're essentially throwaway. It's cost me pennies in the pound. It's nothing. It means nothing. But it would have value and the shit hits the fan to somebody else. You could go, here you go. It's a basic kit. You can augment it with one or two of these and away you go. And you don't have to be first responder all the time. You could give one of these little kits, a handful of bandages, go, there you go. Somebody that's got the skills can go and use them. And few of these.
It's not on that one. What do you think? What kind of stock do you put in the sell-by dates that are in a lot of these things? Because sometimes they're on dressings with no adhesive at all and no antibacterial properties. It's a sealed dressing, yet it says, "Oh, it's a year out of date."
It's a bandage. I mean, let's look at it, right? So this is in a packet, and it's all sealed up. You've looked at it, it's not damaged, it's not stained, there's not been any insect infestation. It's better than taking a t-shirt off and using that folded up on a wound. So as far as the sell-by date, it's not like it's got easy clot or anything on it. So it's fine. Absolutely fine.
I've started picking up like little kits when you see them like at a car boot sale or something like that, and somebody's got a first aid kit that they clearly bought for the kids' football team and they've never actually used it. I've picked them up. But sometimes there's a date stamp, especially the hard box kits. It'll have a stamp on the back saying this is valid till 2023, and it'll have a date on it.
What interesting.
I don't know if it'll have it on them, but usually for the football teams, it's got to have a date on. And literally, according to the FA, you've got to throw that whole kit out and get a new one after that date.
Yeah,
which is madness.
These ones, sorry.
So, which is madness.
It's bonkers. I mean, most of the stuff in there is it's like putting rice in mylar. It functionally lasts forever. It'll last forever. And also, if you're desperate and the shit's hit the fan or you can't get any better help, I would rather have a bandage that's out of date than no bandage at all. So leave your sell-by dates at home if things have happened and gone wrong.
Yeah, I think most preppers know that because of tinned food, right? They're not going to throw away half the stock because it's 6 months out of date in a Teotihuacan situation. You're going to open it, you're going to try it.
100%.
Yeah.
So I keep a couple of these as well. These ones are pretty good. These come with decent trauma shears. It comes with burnies. Slightly bigger bandages. Better quality than the smaller ones as well. Triangular bandage. Trauma dressing. So I'm sure that one's that's a nice thick one for major bleeds. Burn dressing, so generic burn gel. If you've not got that, cold water, 15 minutes.
As quick as possible. As soon as you've burnt it, don't sit there thinking, do I need to put cold water on this for half an hour? Do it straight away.
No oils of any kind, right? No oils of any kind. No butter, none of that old shit. Clean water. Keep going. 15 minutes minimum.
Yeah.
So these are, you've seen a million of these. This is rubber gloves, trauma shears, all that good stuff. So it's a good little kit. I'd say it's a step up from the little red bag that you've just shown, because the contents are more comprehensive.
I would put the rubber gloves along the same sort of line as the microporous tape. You get one in a set. It's not enough, right? I'm lucky, whereas my missus is a care worker. So she ends up with boxes of rubber gloves.
Boxes of them in here.
Yeah, but you need them because, especially if you're helping anyone that's not immediate family and not yourself, you want to change them every time you've touched a wound to handle them. You don't want to risk washing them. You want to get rid of them. So yeah, an abundance of them.
When you're putting on rubber gloves just now, when it's just me and you talking, they'll go on first time. Your palms aren't sweaty. You're not under any pressure, and nobody's screaming and bleeding out. If you put rubber gloves on when you're nervous, you're anxious, and your palms are sweaty, and somebody's bleeding and screaming, shred, 100%. Entirely different thing. So yeah, at least a handful in your bag, if not boxes in the car. They're cheap.
Yeah. I've had to go a size up on them because I had the ones that fit perfectly, nice and snug, but 3 out of 4 times I'd be pulling it and there'd a hole just appear. So I had to go a size up on them ones. Are we done? Have you got more?
This is just my kind of generic supplies of bandages, and more bandages, and scalpels.
Scalpels. That's brave.
10 of them. They were pretty cheap. I saw them, thought they make them in handy, and I just bought them. I don't know why.
I've got a carpet knife. That'll do a surgery. It's fine. What about things like that? I mean, let's really delve deep into the I might need a appendix removed. What's the situation there? Can books help you there, or is it a case of
you've got to die
between your legs and kiss it goodbye?
I mean, let's be honest, myself, you, most other people, regardless of what first aid courses you've had, even with the military, even a combat medic, anything like that, it's out with the realms of what you can do. It's let's be realistic.
I will say though, don't attempt surgery in any way. All this is theoretical, but if you have anything that could potentially have caused shrapnel or bits, whether that's your kettle exploded on the fire outside or whatever it is, getting that metal out or that infected piece out is kind of a priority if you can. So the scalpel could come in handy for that. You're going to really annoy somebody by cutting them open slightly to get it out, but it's better than the infection that comes alongside it.
Again, this is if you can't dial 999 and everyone's broken down.
Or 911 for our American friends.
Don't decide you're going to do battlefield medicine overnight, please.
So we've touched on it slightly, the knowledge where you were saying like you can go for first aid courses, family first aid courses. What I also recommend is I've got multiple of these. I've got about 4 down there. You can get old ones from charity shops, things like that. One of them is like 2003 on it, but it's all about medication, how long it actually lasts, how effective it is over periods of time, dosages, things like that. Stuff that you take for granted that's printed on the side of a bottle. It's full of that. This survival medicine handbook is comprehensive. It really is. It goes into everything. I mean, there's bear attacks in there and all sorts. The pancreas. This is really in depth, from cuts and scrapes to a lobotomy. I don't think a lobotomy is in there. I'm just using it as a stupid example, but it's massive. That one, somebody sent me that as well. But don't skimp out on the books and just get the little pamphlet that comes free with the first aid kit, because that will literally tell you how to attempt to try and use the triangle bandage that's useless.
I mean, I should have brought them upstairs. The 2 that I bought yesterday when I put it in the group chat, that was £4 for 2 large hardback books on basically those ones, and a compendium on drugs usage, expiry dates and everything. And it was like £4. Just a quick trail through the charity shop, see what books they had, and you strike gold.
Yeah. And listen, don't Treat the books as completely precious. Get a pen, get a pencil, make your own notes in them. Yeah. Use tabs or things like that to highlight areas you think you're going to need. If you know basically how to do something, but there's one bit you're unsure of, that should have a tab in the book. This is your supply. This is for your quick reference. And people who say it doesn't matter, I've got everything on a little USB stick, the last thing you want to be doing is loading a stick up onto a computer, hoping there's enough charge coming from your solar panel to try and find out how to solve the... Oh, he's bled out, never mind. A book on hand is a lot better, I would say. Would you agree with that? Because you're all about your solar power and stuff. And
100%. That you can't even beat the feel of a book in your hands as well. You know, nothing trumps a book, in my opinion. I like a tablet for reading, but nothing beats the feel of a book. What I would say is, as well, that's brilliant, but make sure you read and practice it before you need it. When somebody's spurting blood everywhere or they've got an obstruction in their throat, that's not the time to be learning on the job by a book.
Theoretically practice it. Do not start cutting up siblings.
And people panic. I mean, my wife's a nurse, and I got sliced. We had a DIY accident went wrong, and I had a 3 feet shard of glass sliced right down, right across my face, right through the eyelid, and then across my fingers as well. And she panicked because it's different when it's your own.
It is. And that's the hardest thing, because it's hard to train for the reaction you're going to have.
It was funny because any first aid course you'll ever do, they'll tell you, keep calm, keep the casualty calm. So I turned round and she said, oh my God, your eyebrows hanging off. I can see right through your head. Right? No, I'll be fine. Oh, no, it's really bad. There's blood everywhere and you've got to go to hospital. So all that good stuff about
you're all going to die.
Yeah, it was a time to panic.
I've seen it. I've seen it, witnessed exactly the same thing firsthand on 2 occasions where I've been completely calm. Well, 3 occasions actually I can think of where I've been completely calm, the person wounded, because I'm very accident prone. This is why I need first aid kits around.
You never are.
The other people panic. They really do. Some people really panic. I've sliced my finger right down through the middle, and that doesn't seem like much, but there's an artery in there. So I literally had a soup bowl that was filling with blood as I walked through to the front room and went, can somebody give me a hand with this? In the panic, I ended up with about 6 layers of steri strips wrapped around before I got to there. I've had a pole thrown through my leg, and everyone panicked. And because it was sudden, the adrenaline, I didn't even feel it. The stitch afterwards hurt more than the pole. But yeah, there's multiple occurrences, and people really do panic when they don't have to. You've got to think whatever you're doing projects on that person. There's a reason they call it bedside manner, and doctors have a calming voice. If you went into the consultant room and went, oh my God, you've got cancer. There's only a 20% chance you're going to make it. It's not going to be a great experience. All right. So
bedside manner might need a bit of work there, Doc.
Yeah. But this is it. It's about a calming influence, and it can make all the difference, because also you've got to bear in mind, like you said, if it's arterial, it pumps. That pump's not just a random pattern. That's going with a heartbeat. You elevate that heart rate, it bleeds out quicker. The calmer you are, the better.
Do you know the sad thing is as well, though? Nobody wants to get involved. The last 2 first aid courses I did, because you've got to do them every so often for work and different things, and the last 2 said the same thing. Took you through all the course again. Some were better than others, and the two trainers that did both courses said right at the end, now that we've told you all of that, the Good Samaritans are getting sued right, left and centre. So if you see something happening, phone 999. And you're just sitting there going, really? So you went through all of that, but they were basically saying, listen, you could do somebody an injury if you do through doing good, right? If your intentions are good and something goes wrong, you could be sued as an individual. So they were basically telling you, no, just leave them alone.
That is mad. That's the culture we're in, honestly. Save a
That
life
was
and
horrific.
get done for cracking a rib, you know. See, listen,
Yeah.
if it saves my life, feel free. Crack away. I will not sue you.
I would be flattered if they could actually reach my ribs at this moment in time, mate, to be honest. I'd be quite impressed.
He's talking about them rock hard pecs from the gym, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really not.
Right. Rather than starting explaining to people how to perform minor surgeries at home, because we'll never go into that. Have you got anything else to add?
Not really, just practice. Like we've spoken about earlier, practice, go on a course, make sure you can apply a tourniquet, make sure the family does it, make sure they know not to calm, to be calm and what to expect, you know, if something does go wrong. And who to phone,
Yeah.
who to contact.
Yeah, I would. One thing I would add on to there, because we've talked about antibiotics, painkillers, over-the-counter medication, that have a nice little stockpile of topical medications. And what I mean by that, if you don't know, is like creams and things like that. I, for the first time in 40 years, have got a bit of athlete's foot. Never had it before. It's annoying as hell. It's really annoying, especially when you're about to do a 100-mile hike.
Oh,
But it's something I'd never thought of keeping in because I've never had it. So you've got to kind of preempt these things in a way.
have you changed your soap powder or anything recently?
No, but I did. I literally just it came on when I bought new socks, and I don't know if you can have a material allergy that can set it off or something. I have no idea.
It's probably the socks just aren't letting your skin breathe properly, and you've just got sweaty feet because of the socks.
Yeah, I've got sweaty feet. There you go. That's the news of the day. But the point is, eczema, psoriasis, anything, allergies can develop. If you've never had an allergy in your life, don't then think I don't need any antihistamines. Allergies can develop at any stage. When I did a podcast, there's a prepping couple that escaped London and went and lived in the country. They stockpiled glasses, not like go to Specsavers and pay a fortune, but the ones you get from the pound shop where it's
Yeah, a couple
not
of quid, yeah.
+1, +2, +3, and they're only using plus 0.5, but they've gone all the way up to +10.
That's a great idea.
And they just turned around and said, because we're going to get old and it could get worse. So
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's preempting these things you've got to think about. So what could happen? You know, look at your grandma and granddad's ailments, and there's a chance you're going to get the same thing.
Something Kelly said springs to mind as well that none of us have brought up, and I never thought about it until he'd mentioned it. The anti-diarrhea tablets and stuff. I'd never thought of it until he'd said it, and as soon as he'd mentioned it, it was light bulb. I'm going, that's a fantastic idea. I mean, you could have a situation, the water, it's not as potable as you would normally have, or anything else, and things are scooting out every orifice. And if you've not got that in hand, it could be a real problem. And I never thought of it until he'd said it. It was a great idea.
I literally started stockpiling it after that podcast.
Yeah,
Not just for the. I mean, I've always got some in. I've got stuff that helps you to go and stuff that stops you go. I usually have a pack in, but the fact he also said, think about it as a not just a barter item, but a tool for making friends. You know, if you can stop somebody shitting themselves to death with 2 little tablets, they'll be your best friend forever, but they're not going to come and rob all your stuff for the sake of 2 little tablets. So it was interesting.
just be my best friend after you've had a shower and took the tablets.
Yeah, I ain't cleaning you up. You can have some tablets, but I ain't cleaning you up. That's her job. She's the carer. I've invested in my future.
Smart thinking.
If you feel like you're getting old, date a 25-year-old care worker. Job done.
I don't think my wife would be impressed with that. I've got to be honest, Mike. She might have a slight issue with that. Mike, don't get me wrong. It sounds like a plan, but I don't think the wife would be keen.
Well, you know, swings and roundabouts. Right. I think that's about it, pretty much. I think we've in-depth covered some first aid. Do please comment below what we've missed, because like Brian just said, we're learning all the time from other people. Only takes one person to say one thing and it's like, oh my God, light bulb, why didn't I think of that? So please add your comments. You know, it doesn't have to be a snarky one going, hey, you didn't have this, but just put your suggestion in there for us and other people, because that really does help.
Happy to learn. Yeah,
More than
happy
happy
to
to learn. Would you like to say goodbye to our wonderful not live audience?
Goodbye, apparently dead audience, and hopefully we'll be live sometime soon.
And we'll usually be live on this show, so I apologize that it wasn't live. It's, life happens. But as
Mike's
Dan
fault.
would say, always Mike's fault. But as Dan would say, don't die. See you later.
Water stored in jugs and tins, bunkered down through thick and thin. Maps and routes all drawn and laid, preppers live unafraid. At the preppers' fireside we stay, ready for that fateful day. Stories shared and hearts alight, round the fire every night. In the glow of embers dance, we've prepared for every chance. Living simple, living true, with the dream we all pursue.